Welcome back, Trailblazers. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to take a moment to talk about a tool that has completely transformed the way I plan and navigate my hikes, AllTrails Plus. As a Trailheads ambassador and the organizer of the Yakima Valley Trekkers, I'm out on the trails a lot. One of my favorite features of AllTrails Plus is the ability to edit and create my own maps. Conditions change, fallen trees, washed out sections, or even a last-minute reroute. And with AllTrails Plus, I can adjust my route on the fly and share it with others so everyone stays informed and safe. AllTrails Plus also gives you offline maps, wrong turn alerts, and 3D trail previews to help you stay on track and make the most of your adventure. And the best part, you can get 30% off an AllTrails Plus membership with my exclusive link in the episode show notes. So whether you're planning your next big trek or just looking for a new trail to explore, AllTrails Plus has you covered. Check it out and let's hit the trail. Welcome everyone to the Hikes and Mikes podcast. I'm your host, Ivan, and together we'll embark on a weekly journey, connecting with extraordinary hikers from all corners of the United States and beyond. Throughout these spring months, we've had the privilege of conversing with remarkable individuals. Their experiences and adventures will leave you yearning to hit the trails. In this week's episode, we're joined by Teaghan, a gifted storyteller, outdoor journalist, and a passionate hiker whose path to the wild began with a spontaneous backpacking trip through Norway's fjords at 18. From growing up in the Sunshine State to writing for Outside, Backpacker, and Climbing magazines, Teaghan has carved out a powerful voice in the outdoor media world. She shares her journey of resilience, reinvention, and reconnection, and why she believes inclusive, honest storytelling is the heart of impactful outdoor content. We talk about her favorite wildflower hikes, her bucket list trails, and what it truly means to hike with intention, not just for the miles, but for the meaning. Without further ado, let's jump into this episode with our guest, Teaghan. Welcome, everyone, to the latest episode of the Hikes and Mikes podcast. I'm really excited to have this guest with me on the podcast today. Her name is Teaghan, and she's going to be sharing about her hiking experience, as well as the reporting that she's doing when it comes to the outdoor community. Teaghan, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We always like to start off by having our guests share a little bit about themselves and how they got started hiking.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so happy and honored to be here today. I have a little bit of an untraditional experience. I was born in South Florida. I actually didn't see my first mountain and go on my first hike until I was 18 years old. Everyone has a moment in their life when they're 18 that kind of shifts their paradigm. And mine was going backpacking with my high school graduating class. We went to Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. And Norway just absolutely blew my mind. It really opened up my world and my eyes and made me realize that I was missing out on this key component of life that I was drawn to originally when we went and visited a small town called Flom. I ended up just asking someone around the town what hike we can do, and it ended up being one of the most beautiful hikes of my life. I don't even know the incline. I don't even know what the trail name was. It was just a stranger saying, go down that street, up that hill, and you'll get to the most beautiful waterfall. And it was the most beautiful waterfall cascading over this cliff, overlooking the town in the bay with the fjords of Norway in the background. And that really did shift my perspective. And I was like, wow, I can't believe I've grown up in the flattest state of my life and I didn't have any of these experiences. And it really was my first connection to the outdoors and what drew me to the outdoors. But it wasn't really until I was in college where I was able to, be on my own and be independently making my own travel decisions and really create those adventures for myself. And I spent a lot of my time in college going to Seattle, even though I was in school in North Florida at Florida State. I would spend a lot of my time out in Seattle and learned and loved all about the Pacific Northwest, which was like a true testament to the outdoors. I think the Pacific Northwest is a beautiful community of outdoor-centered people and was a great first taste of what that community looks like in America and how it kind of intertwines with myself and my identity and learning to merge those two together. And yeah, so my first ever take was in Norway, like really getting into the spirit and understanding how to be a hiker, how to be an adventurer, leaving no trace, all those key components that you learn when you first become an outdoorsman or woman was really all throughout the Pacific Northwest.
That's awesome to hear. Being based out of the Pacific Northwest, especially in Washington State, that's always great to hear that.
Where in Washington are you?
Oh, so I'm in central Washington. I'm on the other side of the Cascades. I'm just outside of Yakima, but going towards the mountains. So I'm on the foothills of the Cascades.
I mean, you just go to the Pacific Northwest and your reality changes and you're like, wow, this is unbelievably beautiful. And if you're like me and you were lucky to be able to just spend the summers there and not have to deal with everything else the Pacific Northwest entails, it was like a dream.
Oh, for sure, Teaghan. And that's what, sometimes convinces folks to move to the Pacific Northwest is they come during the summer where it's just a beautiful time to visit. And then fall, winter rolls in and you get those gray months where it's just gray and cloudy for months on end, but you live for the summers here.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I did want to ask, now that you've had hundreds, thousands of miles under your boots, have you had a chance to go back to Florida and visit some of their outdoor or recreation opportunities?
Yeah, so growing up, it was pretty standard for us to go on a field trip to the Everglades and see that. When I went back home for Christmas this past year, me and my girlfriends decided to take an airboat ride through the Everglades, which is something we probably haven't done since we were 10 years old, but it was really great and like really healing, like childlike wonder healing, to like revisit these sacred spaces as a kid and revisit them with your friends that you cultivated from that space and carried on through childhood to this adult time and kind of rediscover it all together and rediscover how much of those things you loved, how much they really shaped what the outdoors was for me. I considered myself a salted granola person. I grew up a swimmer. I grew up a water polo player. So I was always in and out of the ocean. And my family was very lucky. We had a trailer in a trailer park in the Florida Keys on the ocean that we split with two other families. So I would spend all my weekends in the Florida Keys, which really taught me a different side of that adventure lifestyle, which I think, kind of drives to that same inspiration of discovery, the unknown, appreciating nature, but the wild seaside of it, kind of. So that really is still instilled in me. I would grow up fishing with my father, catching crabs, specifically catching stone crabs, which is a feat in all of itself. And, remember paddleboarding and, not afraid of crocodiles or alligators like most people. We would get excited when we'd see them, growing up and watching the manatees after we get off the boat, come up to the boat because we're hosing down the boat with water and they love the fresh water. So they come in and they'll come super close to you. So that side of adventure really honed in on that spirit that I gained at a young age, but it just transformed over the years. And it'll always be something that I come back to and always something that's really innate and part of my characters when it comes to the outdoors. And there's something really so special and unique about Florida's connection to that kind of nature and how you really can't get it anywhere outside of the US. And that's the one place that you can really hone in on it. So I feel very lucky to have grown up with that and still be able to be an adult and go back to Florida and get that taste and be able to connect back to the ocean, even though I'm away and across the country at this point in my life.
Appreciate you sharing that because I feel like Florida is percolating when it comes to outdoor recreation. Of course, you have the national parks there, but at least for me, I am fascinated with those freshwater springs that have some of the clearest waters I've ever seen. And like you said, the Florida Keys are just, insane on their own.
It's funny you mention, about those freshwater springs too. Like when I was in college, where I went to college is near the Apalachicola Forest. I think it's a national forest. And those springs are all sprinkled throughout that system. And we would go there during college and adventure there. And at that point in my life, I really didn't even understand that it was hiking in to discover a spring. It was just something I enjoyed, but we were so lucky just to be super close to that. And they have such an ethereal vibe to them, as well as crazy energies and stories. Like we were out there once as college kids hiking and ran into a colony of nudists who were at the springs forest bathing and, talk to them. And they were like, oh yeah, we come out here every single full moon and do this. It's our club. They probably have one on Florida State's campus. We used to have one in the 60s. And there's just like a special, fun, unique Floridian energy to that kind of nature. And I feel like it's very swampy. Like it's a lot of people talk about the swamp aesthetic now, and that's true to what Florida is. It's very just like getting in the dirt, getting in the mud, enjoying the nature, and not thinking too hard of it because it's just very natural to our environment. And it's not like when you're in Colorado and you have to prep and prepare for a 14er and get all these supplies and get all this gear, Florida is, you're just grabbing your water, sometimes a case of beer, and just getting out there, and it's very relaxed and chilled.
Outside of like some random cold snaps, you can hike in shorts and a t-shirt almost year round there, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we had a beautiful trail near my house off of Laxahatchee. Let's hope that's right. That was just beautiful, and it would overlook the Everglades swamp, and it would just go on for miles and miles and miles. And we would just go out there and watch the sunset together as kids in high school. And it's, it was so beautiful. And at that point in my life, I didn't really understand the impact and what I was really doing in those activities because it was just so innate in our routine. But there's so many beautiful things. I haven't explored the Florida Trail personally. I saw it snowed on the Florida Trail this year, though, which is incredible. Super cool and unreal. But yeah, I need to go back and hike Florida's trails. Now that I've done like everything out here, I need to go back to my home and do it.
That's funny that you mentioned that because I do remember seeing some social media posts about Florida getting snow, and this season was like hit or miss here in the Pacific Northwest. And I was like, they got more snow than we do in Washington right now, which is just crazy to say.
Yeah. And it's really funny that you say that because I still have so many friends in Washington and they come out to visit me. And I think it was either last year or the year before that California, Los Angeles specifically, I think, was getting more rain than Seattle at that point. And I was like, what is happening? Like, how are we getting more rain than Seattle?
Right?
It's crazy.
Now, Teaghan, I feel like each year there's people that are following a similar path to the outdoors as you did, where they're getting to be adults and making travel decisions on their own and exploring what this beautiful world has to offer. Now, I feel like sometimes, especially for newcomers, the outdoor industry or just the outdoors in general can feel inaccessible. How did you manage to break through what is now becoming an oversaturated industry, and how did you carve your own path?
I'll start on two different things. I think I'll start with the industry, but breaking into it was really hard. And I think what a lot of people told me when I was starting my path in this industry was to be persistent. And that was really hard to hear over and over and over again, but it really is a true testament of what you need to do to really make it. And I think that kind of stands to what you need to do to make a career in journalism in general, and then also what you need to do to make a career in the outdoor industry. I interviewed for Outside 3 times before I landed a role with them. And then again, I'm still a contractor at this point, but I love what I do and I really appreciate what I do. And I love being able to work for a backpacking and climbing team specifically, as well as writing on our trending team. Those are hitting all my passion points in the outdoors. I just really kept building in on every connection I made there. I would remember to check in with the recruiter who got me that first interview in 2021. I remember my first interview with that company and the editor that I spoke to, and then connecting with her 3 years later when I was doing this final interview, and just making sure to keep honing in on those relationships, making sure every time I hopped on the phone with someone for an interview that I would mention my past interviews, the past people I spoke to, and really not giving up that hope. It was really, really hard not to give that up. I faced countless rejections all over the board, not just from outside, but other places in the industry. And it was really the testament to the resilience and strength that I had to get back up when I was pushed down. That was really important. I think the outdoor industry is transforming right now with everything going on in our world. And it's going to be really important for us to keep that testament and that strength close to us. I also am so thankful to this leadership program, the Futurist Project, that I did when I was really young and starting out in the industry. I went on a PR trip when I was still an intern for Sunset Magazine, and I was connected to someone through that PR trip who is one of the founders who brought this leadership program back. And that leadership program was conceived from Outdoor Retailer, which is a giant gear event that they put on every single year in the outdoor industry. And when I was brought this opportunity, I had no idea what any of these things were. So me talking about you today is a testament to like learning and practicing and understanding those things, but breaking in with them and investing in my future by going and doing a leadership program like that was directly affiliated with the outdoors was so monumental because it really taught me what the outdoor industry needed to look like, the things that needed to change, the people who are going to be those change makers, and really put us all in a corner together to create change and become innovators. And doing that at such a young age was really pivotal. And I still have the same mentors today that I did when I started when I was 23. I had to invest financially into that. And I think that was worth that sacrifice. And the Futurist Project is the one that I did personally, but there are so many others out there. One platform that I really love is Basecamp for job opportunities. Basecamp has a giant Facebook group that posts job opportunities anywhere between seasonal, part-time gigs to full-time roles with giant companies. And they have a lot of career coaching, a lot of groups, and a lot of networking opportunities that you can attend. These things do exist in the world, but you really do have to go out and search for them and make sure that you're going to invest your time and energy and make sure that you're passionate about it and it's worth you investing your time and energy. But the resources are all out there, I promise you, but you have to make sure that you're looking for them. They just don't come to you. You have to go in search of them. But the Futurist Project is the one that's true to my heart, and the Base Camp is something that I think is really accessible to all people. They have a free newsletter you can subscribe to every single week, and then they do freelance courses and network meetups that take some investment that I think, I'm not sure how much, but anyone can invest in that.
When it comes to the Futurist Project, is it SoCal based or do they have locations throughout the country?
It's not SoCal based at all, actually. So it was a 6-month leadership training, and we would have, I think, once a month meetings that were kind of campfires where we would cover a topic. And then we had 3 meetups in person every year. The year I went, it was in Denver. I think it was in Salt Lake last year, but it's kind of centered around that event. And then you go on a retreat where you spend 3 days really tapping into everything, getting to know your peers, really sitting around campfires, like having guest lecturers come in and teach you about incredible things in the outdoors, how to be the most successful person in the outdoors, how to advocate for others in the outdoors. And we did that at a small camp in Utah. I'm not sure if they still did it at Utah. I think they did last year, but I'm not sure they will this year. And then we had a final presentation. Ours was actually in Kansas City. I think it was tied to another gear show, but I'm not sure where it is each year. So it's kind of traveling. People in my class were from all over the country. A lot of people are in Denver, but it's not something that's SoCal based at all. And anyone who's in the outdoor industry can join. And I was just lucky to be someone who was able to join early on in my career, but I really advocate for people who are further in their career to do it as well. If you want to be a face of change, if you want to disrupt the industry, it's already seen some disruption, but there's always a way to create a positive impact. And this program was a true testament and true path to doing that.
I think a lot of us, especially when it comes to hiking and backpacking, we're really research heavy sometimes. And there's so much information out there. And like you said, the information and tools are out there. You just got to go out and find them. But to have a group that curates all that valuable information into one experience sounds like a really great path for folks to take if they do want to get those tools without having to sift through all the different things online and just get it curated for their experience. That's really awesome.
Yeah, and it also, like, the thing that was really important to me was it put me in a big network and gave me mentors that really led me through that time in my life, which I needed. But speaking on accessibility on the other side, not as someone who's trying to break into the industry, but more as a consumer and adventurer, I think it's really hard to look at that, and I think there is an obvious discretion there, between people who are born and bred in a backpacking outdoors families and people who don't get that experience and have to teach them themselves. But I think what's really beautiful is that the industry has recognized this, and there are people and groups working towards this and working towards bringing the outdoors to a more inclusive space. One of them I will always recommend, it is always on the top of my list, is Hike Club outside of LA, which is a beautiful, beautiful organization that's bringing the outdoors to more BIPOC groups. And Hike Club is just the one at the top of mind, but there are a list of, so many similar ones, and we have them all spread out on all our websites on Outside, especially backpackers. We've written one of them. Another one's Outdoor Afro. There are those communities out there who are trying to bring in, people who don't have that experience, from their families and making sure that they can provide a new trail family for that, as well as there's many scholarship opportunities within those programs, a lot of opportunities to get gear if you go on hikes with them. It's great that the industry has recognized this gap and there's people working towards closing that gap, and there is availability there.
One thing that I definitely am so thankful that came through the podcast is to learn about the amazing work all these Los Angeles and SoCal-based hiking groups and clubs are doing to get people out into the outdoors and enjoying the local trails that not just SoCal, but, the West Coast has to offer. I am just really appreciative of all the support that a lot of the hiking clubs have given me when it came to creating my own hiking club based here in Central Washington. And I just love seeing that, there's clubs for almost anybody in SoCal. It's a really beautiful thing that's happening down there. And I know that a lot of people, they don't look at LA as an outdoor scene, but it really has some amazing trails that you don't have to travel that far in order to reach.
I know. It's so funny too, because some of my favorite trails are like so close to home in LA. Like I love Hollywood Reservoir, which was a totally paved walking trail that just walks around Lake Hollywood. I think it's 3.5 miles and you get a beautiful view of the Hollywood sign. And that's 20 minutes away from my house, or the Culver Steps, which is a beautiful hill in the Baldwin Hills neighborhood that you just walk up a giant staircase of steps. So it's a great workout. And there's so much beautiful urban hiking around that people just dismiss right away because it's Los Angeles in general. But it's here, and there's a community that's speaking to that testament as well, just like you said.
And Teaghan, switching gears, I wanted to touch base on some of the great articles that you've been able to write over the last couple of years. One that stood out is your love for Yellowstone in the winter. I think a lot of the parks, especially on the West Coast, when it comes to the winter season, it tends to be the less crowded months, and it has its own beauty. What was it about the winter season in Yellowstone that drew you in, and what was your experience like?
Yeah, I think what was really interesting about that trip was that I went to Yellowstone twice in that calendar year. So I went that summer and then I went that winter. It was really shocking when I went in the summer. I didn't enjoy it. I felt like I was at Disneyland, and I'm a Floridian. I'm used to being at Disneyland, but I'm not used to that feeling of claustrophobia surrounding crowds in a national park. I am to some extent. National parks are always crowded, but Yellowstone was just a different type of beast that day. It was like midsummer, probably August, and I was just not able to truly enjoy this park for what it was. I think there was some disconnect because of the giant crowds, and that made me really sad and upset because that's never usually my experience in a national park, especially when I'm seeing one for the first time, and especially when it's one of the big greats like Yellowstone. So I decided to go back that winter to visit a girlfriend who was studying at the University of Montana at that time. We just ended up planning a last-minute trip to Yellowstone just because we're nature-centered people and we wanted to see what it was like. And it was a beautiful experience because no one was there. And we felt like we had the entire national park to ourselves. And it was so beautiful in a different sense too, because, you had, I think it's the Mammoth Springs that were like completely frozen over, and the way that the snowflakes and whatever gas is in that water there that makes it like all those beautiful colors, like made the water freeze so particular that it looked otherworldly. And it was a desolate place in that no one else was interrupting our time. And we were truly with each other enjoying this beautiful place and this beautiful company, as well as we were able to cross country ski. And it was my first experience cross country skiing. We went skiing at, I think, Bridger Bowl, not like the big ski resort in Bozeman, but the smaller one. And we're all Floridians, so it obviously didn't go well. So we needed a redemption ski arc, and we decided to cross country ski, and we all did that for the first time and enjoyed that experience. It was just a new activity that I never even thought I could do and associated with the winter, and doing that fun activity while discovering Yellowstone and getting more into the nature in the backcountry of it was so beautiful, as well as the animals were out and about because no one's around. We saw mountain goats. We saw, of course, buffalo, but we saw like buffalo super up close, not threatening whatsoever. We were on the trail skiing and they were on the cliff right next to us. And it was really like indescribable to any kind of national park adventure I'd had before. And I really advocate for always traveling in the off season. You get way more room, you get a deeper experience. I think you're able to easily afford it more too. Like I always have a cheaper ticket around those times. And it's always made me feel more connected to those places when I travel in the off season.
And for me, Yellowstone, I haven't had a chance to go visit, but I do want to go visit in the winter months to be able to see just the wildlife there. And like you said, because the crowds are gone, they tend to be a little bit more out and about. For your trip, did you do it all by yourself as far as like planning the trip, getting inside the park, or did you go through like a tour guide?
No, me and my girlfriends planned it all by ourselves. We didn't do a tour guide, but we rented skis in Bozeman, did like a 2-day rental, got them from a ski shop, head on over, parked our car at the visitor station, and we asked the rangers. We were like, what do you recommend for a cross-country ski trail for someone who has never cross-country skied? And they gave us their easiest recommendation. So we planned it with an intention, but the rangers were able to point out specific places that we should go.
That's a really great experience. I'm going to have to pick your mind on my own trip in the winter. Now, one of my other favorite articles was the one that you wrote about the 3 different oases near Coachella that people can go and explore the water as well as to beat the heat. Can you share a little bit about that article and how that kind of came to be?
Yeah, so I actually started that article thinking about a really cool facility in Palm Springs called the Palm Springs Surf Club. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's this giant wave pool in the middle of the desert that you can surf at. So I was instantly interested in this thing. I was like, this is so cool. It's so, once again, otherworldly, like to surf in the middle of the desert. So that pitch kind of started focused on that location, and then it became something bigger when we looked at the surrounding areas and the other opportunities, and we wanted to give people, a choice in their adventure. We just didn't want to leave them with just one. But first on that list was the Palm Springs Surf Club, which is just an essential place to cool off. If you are a family, it's more of a family centered. You have the lazy river that runs around. You could sit on the side. They have little side pools that you can rent out and cabanas and watch all the surfers. And there's like pro surfers who come in and out and surf. It's just like the most quintessential Californian experience, right? Surfing in the desert, it doesn't make sense, but people are doing it and it looks cool as hell. And then also we included in that list was Big Bear, which is such a SoCal staple. Everyone's out at Big Bear during the winter skiing, not the best ski in the world, but Southern Californians get it done no matter what. And there's so many opportunities in Big Bear to explore the lake, whether you want to swim, whether you want to wakeboard, or whether you want to fish or just hike around it. It's a really fun town just to have like a staycation close to Southern California and really get like a nature escape and get away from the city. Even if it's not like Coachella season, I highly recommend going out to Big Bear and exploring it. And then the final location that we included in that list was the Salton Sea, which is such an interesting kind of landscape. It was really popular in the 60s in California. It was the beach town, the escape, and there's really cool pictures online of people pulling up on like Cadillacs and convertibles in their 60s bikini and their attire and their cigars, just kind of tailgating on the beach. And it was a really cool Californian experience, but people really didn't understand what was happening in the environmental impact. And I think it was in the 70s and 80s, there was runoff from nearby agriculture in the Salton Sea's acidity just exploded and it became a desolate wasteland. And it still stands today, but it's not what it once was. And it wasn't this idyllic beach vacation that people want, but it's more of this beautiful flat land. And I would say like a piece of history that still stands today that you can explore. I heard it's smelly. So if you have a problem with smell, I may suggest that you don't stop by, but there's really unique opportunities to kayak and paddleboard over the lake, as well as if you're an avid bird watcher, they have a beautiful bird refuge there with some of the most dense population of bird species in Southern California. So there's a lot of opportunities outside of just Coachella. And then I would say, even if you're not looking to get in the water, one of my favorite parts of Palm Springs is San Jacinto Mountain, which is right next to Palm Springs. And you can take a tram up there. I think it's like $40 or something. And you take a tram all the way up to the top, and it'll literally drop from like maybe like 90 degrees down in the desert, but it'll be 60 degrees up there. So you'll instantly cool off. And it's a really beautiful shift, in reality, because you're 1 minute you're in the desert and you take the tram up, and now you're on like a rocky alpine environment. And it's a really cool transition. And there's just so many fun things to do in Southern California. There's so much different types of environment within, hours of each other's, that it's really cool to explore these different places. And there's always an opportunity for an adventure, and there's always an opportunity to make the adventure what you want and kind of tone it to your interest.
Those are three just, spectacular places in Southern California, not too far away from LA. I remember a couple years ago, I did a deep dive into the Salton Sea and the history behind it. I think if people want to get a glimpse of what it was before the lakes acidity got too bad, there's still remnants of what it was that you could walk by.
It's truly like a piece of history that's living. And I know there's a law intact that's working right now to clean it up and making sure that it's still accessible and something that you can enjoy. It won't be what it was, but I still think it's an important ecosystem to explore, and really speaks to, I think there are those special places that are national parks that are more about the history, than the actual nature. And I think the Salton Sea is one of those that kind of has a beautiful synthesis of both of them.
Now, Teaghan, as someone who writes for Outside Magazine as well as managing social media for backpacker and climbing magazines, I'm interested in hearing your take on what are some of the biggest trends in outdoor media right now that you're seeing, and what excites you or maybe concerns you about the future of outdoor content.
I think there's just been so much content out there, especially after 2020. We saw a really big push of people wanting to explore the outdoors, and a lot of newcomers to the outdoors, and a lot of people who were now living that untraditional lifestyle and living a lifestyle on the road, as van lifers and stuff like that, that there was this giant push for outdoor content. And in its most quintessential thing, the outdoors is beautiful landscapes, beautiful mountains, all these beautiful pictures. And I think that people are kind of steering away from that idealistic picture, and they're more tapped into the authentic content, like what am I eating on my trail lunches? How do I use the bathroom? More genuine things that kind of connect to their experience than the overall result, which is, that beautiful photo at the end of the hike. People want to know more about the journey. They really want storytelling. The content that I push out there that has more storytelling involved always does better, and the more authentic content we put out there that is real, people sharing their real struggles, people relate more to that. Our audience really wants authentic things. And I think that just shows within the content that really does well as this content that our audience kind of takes in and really respects and sits with and engages with.
Here we just wrapped up our spring wildflower season in Central Washington, and I got to see firsthand the quick turnaround when it comes to social media. One of my local trails here in Yakima was listed as one of the top spots to see wildflowers in the United States. And it's been a hidden gem for the last couple years, but this year, that article came out maybe a month and a half ago, and I've never seen the trailheads packed like I did this year. Yeah, twice if not triple the amount of people trying to catch the wildflowers.
That's crazy. That shows like the power of social media. I had like a similar experience. We went to Antelope Valley to see the California poppies, and it was just raving about these super blooms in California, and you have to see the Antelope Valley and go to the state park. We went to the state park. There were no super blooms in the Antelope Valley State Park, and we ended up just going to the side of the road and seeing the soup bloom somewhere else. But social media can be deceiving. I'm someone who works in it. Like, you can't 100% trust it, but when you feel like you find content that you do believe and trust, resonate with that and understand that that's the content that you want to keep close to your heart. Those are the creators that you want to keep up with. You kind of have to filter through this mess to figure out what you like, and that's totally okay. But you just have to have that awareness and make sure you're not consuming everything out there, and really find the stuff that touches your heart and really parallels what you want out there.
I totally agree. And I know you've already touched base on this, especially when it comes to LA and SoCal. But I've started to see the outdoor industry become more inclusive, especially some of the bigger brand names, and having some, BIPOC represented new companies being formed that are run by or founded by BIPOC members. It's been really awesome to see that trend in the outdoor industry. When it comes to who is portrayed in outdoor media and who feels invited into those spaces, how do you think the outdoor industry can become more inclusive in terms of who it's portrayed when it comes to the outdoor media, and then who feels invited into those spaces?
I think it's going to always be important to watch what someone's doing annually. And if a company is really shouting out those BIPOC groups and other underrepresented communities during a specific month, then maybe they're not a true ally. You want to make sure that they're connected to those communities all month long, as well as amplifying their voices. We just started a new column on climbing where we're actually inviting BIPOC leaders of the climbing community to create a column with us. And that was an initiative that came out of one of those months, but we wanted to push it all year long because we felt that this was an important topic to cover all year long. So I'm really excited about that. The first group that we're working with is Brown Girls Climb, which is an amazing group. Are you familiar with them?
Yeah, I follow them on social media. I think what they're doing is amazing.
Yeah, and I think it's really important. I'm a white person. I have to understand my privilege and understand that I am an ally first and foremost. I will never understand that struggle, but I have to do what as I can as an ally. There are always going to be funds and pages that you can donate to, and you should always donate to. I think it's important to support those communities through the events that they have, like climbs or hikes, and make sure that you're showing up, as well as just advocating and spreading the word of those communities and people, and making sure that people know that they exist, and making sure that you can teach people who don't know about those communities who need that they exist. And, just making sure that you're getting the word out there for them, being an ally when you can, donating when you can, and keeping up with them all throughout the year.
Can't agree more. Now, this last specific question for your experiences, Teaghan, and you kind of mentioned it. And for most of the West Coast, the wildflower season is starting to be on its way out. The one picture that caught my attention from your feed was from Antelope Valley, where you got to see some amazing flowers. What has been your favorite wildflower moment, either in SoCal or the Pacific Northwest, or anywhere that you've been able to travel and visit?
Wow, that's a tough question. That day in the Antelope Valley was super special because I was with three of my really close friends. We didn't go on too many day trips, but we just decided to go last minute and showed up, and we were so disappointed. And then we made the most of it and rediscovered that by not meeting our expectations and just doing something low key and chill instead and adapting our plan, like we had the most fun doing that. I think in the end, we ended up just pulling up to the side of a random road on the hill, laid out a blanket, sat and listened to music and hung out after being in the car for hours. And that was a really, really special experience. Another experience that stands out to me in Southern California is hiking on the hills of Malibu during mustard seed season. Mustard seeds are super invasive to Los Angeles, so we don't love them, but they are really beautiful. And to watch the hills be covered in yellow sunshine is just a crazy experience that brings joy to anyone's heart. And the mustard seeds just shoot up out of the air. They're really tall, so you really do feel embraced by them, and you really do feel like the hills are alive because they're yellow, and it's a spectacular experience.
Isn't it interesting that some of the more showy flowers can be some of the most invasive? So that's funny that you mentioned the mustard seed, because I think I have heard in Malibu that it's beautiful, but it shouldn't be there.
I mean, they're all over LA right now. Like, you look all over and you just see these beautiful blooms of yellow on the hills, but they're beautiful. But yeah, man, they're not supposed to be there.
Now, Teaghan, these last three questions we like to ask all our guests that come on the podcast. The first one is regarding a regular routine that you do either frequently or occasionally. For some hikers, it's packing their favorite snack or drink. For others, it's enjoying a moment of zen. And then for a lot of us, it's enjoying that favorite post-hike meal. Is there a regular custom or routine that you like to do when you reach your destination or when you make it back out?
I am a peanut M&M person. You will always find a package of peanut M&Ms on an adventure with me. They're always in the front seat, middle console next to me. They're always going to be packed in my bag in the bear can on the backpacking trip. I'm sacrificing space and taking up weight for peanut M&Ms always.
And now, how do you keep them from not melting? Because that's where I have a trouble when it comes to chocolate-based candies.
Well, the good thing is that I love them, and my one friend that I adventure with really loves them too. So they don't last. So we usually get rid of the package within the day, and that's why we don't worry about heat. And they're our favorite car snack too. So we usually eat like half of the bag on the way to the destination anyways. Whenever we go to stop on a trip, or whenever we go to fill up gas, go to CVS or something and stock up before someone's grabbing a pack of peanut M&Ms.
Now, this next one, Teaghan, is about your pack list. Is there a luxury item outside of the M&Ms that you tend to pack that falls outside of the essentials?
Yeah, I'm always going to pack a book. My favorite things to me in nature and truly enjoying nature is being able to sit in nature and read a book. There's just something about really tapping into a different world within a story while being in the most serene place in the world that really just creates a sense of fulfillment and happiness in me. And I'm going to make sure I have that weight to carry a book with me. It won't be a hardcover book. It'll usually be a paper book. But I think that's just one of the things that I really enjoy about trekking and backpacking is being able to sit and relax and read a book, as well as at night, like with my headlamp, read a book too, to really help calm my nerves. It's very anxiety inducing to be outdoors in the middle of the night, especially in the Sierra where it's bear country. And being a book is really helps me like relax and get into a sleepy mode after a long day.
And then I got to ask, do you have a preference when it comes to nonfiction or fiction books?
I'm a fiction girl. I can barely read nonfiction nowadays. I need an escape from reality in my reading.
And last question when it comes to reading, what's your favorite book that you're reading right now, or what's been your favorite book so far in 2025?
That's a really good question. Someone just asked me this too, and I had to go through my Goodreads list, which is what I'm going to do right now.
Oh, I'm so glad you use Goodreads. I started using that a couple weeks ago.
Really? Oh my God, that's awesome. Yeah, I love it. It's like such an easy way to really keep track of my reading. And I only read paper, so I don't get like the percentage that people get when they're reading like on a Kindle. Like I think it says like what percentage you have. So this really helps me figure out how much I have and makes me like have that anxiousness to finish the book or not. Gosh. I'll do my favorite from this year. I just found it. It's I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Harpman. I think it was a French book that came out in the 60s. And it was basically about this group of women. It doesn't list what country, but it was a group of women who were stuck in this cage who were able to escape one day on this kind of desolate planet. And it really talks about this young girl's experience growing up with this colony of women and how she's never known men in her entire life. And they end up just backpacking throughout the whole land and building a community, starting like this colony. And it's a really paralyzing experience because I don't know a world without men. So really understanding how she became who she is and what she was missing in life, as well as the strengths that she built from that experience. It was just really touching as a female to read that, as well as tapped into like the nature experience of backpacking and exploring. And it was a really great read overall, as well as something that made me think afterwards and really think, man, I wish I was like in a book club or a seminar so I could discuss this with someone. It's really thought provoking and something that leads you questioning after, like, what if that was that reality, as well as a book that I think really connects to the feminine soul.
Now, Teaghan, the last one is, we're about halfway through 2025. There's still plenty of time to do hiking and traveling. Are there any hiking or travel goals that you have on the horizon for the remainder of the year?
Yeah, I live in Southern California, so I want to be all up in the Sierra this summer. I just want to be exploring the heck out of it. I have so many backpacking trips saved that I want to do. One of the ones that I can name on the top of my head is our Thousand Islands Lake, which is like a 14-mile trail in and out. just want to be backpacking all in the Sierra, hoping that I can get a permit with the 2-week notice ahead and navigate that system. Another one on my list is I want to backpack the Channel Islands National Park, but we're waiting for June gloom and May gray to go away before I can really tap into that.
Well, Teaghan, that was it for the regular questions. We always like to finish off the podcast with a segment of this or that questions. They're all hiking related. Feel free to say both, neither. But the first one is, when it comes to packing, do you pack trail snacks or trail lunch?
Trail snacks.
And then this one could be hard for a lot of folks, but waterfalls or summits?
Waterfalls. I grew up close to the ocean and I grew up close to the water. If I can get in the water at the end of the hike, that's all I could ask for.
And then this one's a trail system question. Do you prefer switchbacks or would you rather go straight up?
Switchbacks. I need to stop at the end of each switchback and check in with my group and make sure we're all okay and get a good few sentences of complaints out and water and then get back to it.
Now, this next one's our most controversial one, but trek poles or freehand?
Freehand.
And then this next one's about your footwear. Do you wear trail runners or traditional hiking boots?
Traditional hiking boots, my Hokas that I was gifted 5 years ago that I still use today, and I've never worn any other hiking boots since. I got them, instantly backpacked 23 miles on them without training, and I love them to death.
Now, Teaghan, this next one's another trail system question, but do you have a preference when it comes to a loop trail or an out and back trail?
I love a loop trail. I love like a full adventure and knowing that there's always going to be something unexpected on the trail instead of knowing I already saw the trail and will have to retrace my steps.
And then this next one is a new one for this season. Group hikes or solo adventures?
Group hikes. I'm an extroverted person through and through. I will always prefer someone to be with me, especially as a woman. I prefer to have someone on my adventures with me just for safety reasons as well.
And then these next two are the most difficult ones in my opinion. Sunset hikes or sunrise hikes?
That's really hard. I'm going to have to say sunrise because I love the feeling of waking up with the sun as well as getting back in light versus hiking back at night. I think also doing a sunrise hike, then you set the expectation for the day that you're going to have an amazing, beautiful, wonderful day because you just accomplished that and you have the rest of the day of the adventure and it really invigorates you and gets you excited. And the sunset hike is kind of like an end of the day. You get a little sad that it's over.
And then spring wildflowers or fall colors?
Because it's wildflower season and because I'm a born and raised Floridian and now live in Southern California and never have lived in a fall colors situation, I'm going to have to say spring wildflowers.
And then the last one is, do you prefer long and scenic hikes or short and strenuous?
Long and scenic, all the way. I would rather take my time, stop and take 50 pictures, touch the moss, look at every single leaf, and enjoy the scenery.
Well, that was it, Teaghan, for the this or that questions. For folks that want to follow your journey along and read some of your articles, especially on what's coming up later on this year, where are some of the best places they can find you on social media and online?
Yeah, I'm always on Instagram. I'm chronically online. My handle is Sweet Tea, 2 E's, 2 A's. And then you can also check out my bio on Outside Online. You'll see upcoming trending articles from Outside on there.
Awesome, Teaghan. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It has been a blast speaking with you, and I look forward to what 2025 has to offer for you.
Thanks, Ivan. Talk soon.
And that brings us to the end of this episode alongside Teaghan. We extend our heartfelt thanks to her for coming on the podcast. Be sure to follow her on Instagram at Sweet Tea, with T having 2 E's and 2 A's, and check out the episode show notes to learn more. New episodes will be dropping every Monday this spring, with occasional bonus episodes on Fridays. To ensure you never miss out on these thrilling tales, remember to hit the like and subscribe button. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to check out our vibrant community on Instagram at Hikes and Mics. We'll be sharing episode visuals, my own personal hiking content, and so much more. Let's stay connected and continue to inspire each other on this remarkable journey. As we bid farewell, remember to tread those happy trails, embrace the great outdoors, and keep the spirit of adventure alive. Until next time, my fellow explorers, happy hiking. This episode's music was created by Ketsa. Follow him on Instagram at Ketsa Music. This episode is brought to you by Ursa Minor Outfitters. Folks, I'm absolutely in love with my loon mug. It's handmade, it's an absolute piece of art. Whether it's at the office or at the house, people keep asking to check it out. If you're not a loon fan, they also have other beautiful mugs for wildlife fans of moose, bears, and eagles. They specialize in products highlighting the outdoors and local pride through quality design by local artists. They've even started expanding into items beyond mugs, like apparel, dog accessories, and soon candles and more. They also try to partner and highlight other small businesses, and in some cases, forego profits in lieu of charitable giving to help their community, such as the dog rescue. So check them out, ursaminooroutfitters.com, and enter promo code HikesMikes10 at checkout to receive 10% off your order. And for our four-legged hiking partners, they also have a portable silicone dog bowl and also a sweet over-the-collar dog bandana. Go check them out, ursaminooroutfitters.com, and don't forget to enter promo code HikesMikes10 at checkout to receive 10% off your order.